What would happen if somebody made a shotgun out of 23mm aircraft gun barrels that were ejected due to manufacturing flaws? Because that's the story of the KS23, a 4-gauge Russian shotgun designed in the 1970s. Hello and welcome to today's video where we will be talking about the KS23 in the finals. In this weapon showcase, we will go fully in depth to better understand the KS23. We will look at the latest patch notes, the weapon stats, and how to use the gun at all ranges, as well as what gadgets and specializations to increase our chances of victory. So grab pen and paper because it's time to take notes as we dive into this underrated but strong weapon. Now, for those of you that don't actually believe the intro, because I did the same thing, I was skeptical when I first read it. So straight from Wikipedia, which never lies. The barrels for the KS23 were made from 23mm aircraft gun barrels that were ejected due to manufacturing flaws. Deemed unacceptable for the higher pressure required in aircraft weapons, they instead could have been used for lower stress of slugs and other rounds. Now that you know I don't lie, we can start the video by looking at the patch notes. Beginning with update 2.2, where we saw a reduction in damage and higher RPM for an overall higher DPS. Now this update is by far the most important one, because with the damage reduction we lost the ability to combo shots with a quick melee for an easy kill, where it would have been a 1 shot and a melee for a light, 2 shots and a melee for a medium, and 3 shots and a melee for a heavy. But do not worry, as in this video we'll still look how to be competitive at close range even without that mechanic. The other change that I want to look at is the slug behavior. Yes, they're now faster from 200 to 300 meters per second, but we lost a lot of range. From a fall off range from 15 to 50 to a new range of 18 to 23 meters. Where previously every meter you would have lost 1.7 damage to a now 12% damage reduction per meter. Which is a change that I don't quite understand, because it would have been nice before where you could have been rewarded for hitting such a long range shot, because this weapon is not easy to use at long ranges as it's shooting projectiles. While the other two patches just provide quality changes to improve the feel of the weapon. So we've covered the patches, it's time we move on to the stats. And because at first glance this weapon might feel like the cheaper version of the model, we're gonna compare it to the medium shotgun. Now on paper the only number that I would complain about is the missing headshot multiplier, because again you're not being rewarded for taking headshots. Yes, it's a shotgun but it shoots slugs, so I don't understand why you wouldn't want to have a headshot multiplier. Now before we move on to the next stats, I want to look at the model first to truly understand why I call it the fake model. Now on paper these two weapons seem very similar. Same effective range, same fire rate, same magazine size, and pretty much the same reload speed. The model also has a spread tight enough that it could be called a slug shotgun. But what is that makes the model feel much better than the KS23? For two reasons. Both lights and mediums are a 2-shot, heavies are a 3-shot, and you have the mobility of the medium. While the KS23 is for lights, mediums, and heavies, 2, 3, and 4 shots respectively. Now going back to the weapon stats, we can speculate that the biggest problem has got up to the damage, but before labeling the weapon, let's go over the TTKs against each class. We got a 0.82 seconds TTK against light using 2 bullets. Against mediums, 1.64 seconds with 3 shots. And 2.46 against heavies in 4 shots. The stats are slightly worse than the ones on the Lewis on lights and mediums, but suffers the most against heavies, where it would take 0.66 seconds more to kill a full health heavy. But it's not all bad, as compared to the flamethrower, but the stats are much better, meaning that if we can't perform with that, we can perform with the KS23. So let's go over how to use it at all ranges. In this section of the video, we're going to be looking at the 0 to 5, 5 to 20, and 20 and beyond to truly master the gun at all ranges. Now for the first range, the 0 to 5 meters, it could be the easiest or the hardest depending on the class you're fighting against. It shines against mediums and heavies due to their low or moderate mobility, but it has a hard time against lights that the closer they get and the more difficult it becomes for the weapon to keep up with their small silhouette and high movement speed. Hip fighting is the most beneficial way to use the weapon at this range, and also try to minimize the usage of quick melees, as it is not that advantageous against full health opponents. At this range, another mechanic that I want to talk about is vent prepping. So you know how it takes 3 rounds to actually open up a wall with the KS23, and vents are accessible only to lights and mediums because heavies are just too fat to fit through it. So we're gonna shoot right above or around the vent twice to prep it, and whenever a light or a medium tries to escape through the vent thinking it's safe, we're gonna be able to chase them without trouble. Let's now talk about the 5 to 20 meter range, and I cannot stress this enough, this is exactly the range at which you want most of your engagements to happen. At this range, you want to prioritize aiming to maximize our accuracy, and try to predict where the enemies are going to be going because we're using a projectile weapon. Now, if you see an enemy that is beyond the 20 meter range, try to close the distance before engaging because we want to use the weapon at its optimal range. And finally, the 20 meter and beyond range, just don't use this weapon at this range, it becomes a pea shooter. Beyond the 23 meters, your damage goes up to 50 per second. And so now that we know how to use the weapon at all ranges, it's time we talk about abilities and gadgets. One of the two best abilities you should be using is the Winch Claw. Good to finish off opponents by giving them a 100 damage slap in the face. It fits the playstyle of the KS23 very nicely. It is perfect against mediums, and if only it dealt 10 damage, it would be S tier against lights as well, because then you will be able to combo it with a shot and a quick melee. Moving on to the second gadget and the superior one out of the two, Charge and Slam. It is perfect to deal with annoying lights that get too close to you and can be used to damage multiple targets at once. Try to use it as much as possible and always remember to jump at the very end of the charge so you can get an extra 70 damage. Now moving on to the gadgets, one of the gadgets that will increase our chances of survival is the Goo Grenade, which is both useful to setting up defenses on a cash out but also to break down a sight that an enemy may have on you. The gadget that makes the KS23 shine though is the Dome Shield. It's an essential for every heavy loadout, and for a good reason. It is both a good supportive gadget for the team, and it also gives us 5 good seconds of duration where we can take our time to make those predictions for the slugs. Another great gadget to pair up with the KS23 is the RPG. It is wonderful at prepping kills with high opening damage, and it will also scare lights away. Finally, the gadget that can help the KS23, at least the way I play it, is the motion sensor. You get 2 off with a fast cooldown, and they can be used both offensively to protect cash outs or defensively to know if an enemy is flanking you. Obviously, don't just limit yourself to the gadget that I just suggested, go out there and experiment. Because you never know, you could just be cooking a different loadout that works much better. That being said, I think we reached the end of the video. Please like the video if you enjoyed, and subscribe for more content about the finals. I honestly think I'm gonna be making this a series. We already made the FCAR, go check it out, it should be a card on the top right corner, and expect more videos just like this one about the other weapons. Anyway, thanks for watching, I will see you next time.